Hey,
Okay.
doing good, Will.
Yeah, we're trying a little some new technology. So if there's some bumps along the way, maybe it'll make for a better show if you guys if this turns into an absolute train wreck. But I don't think it will. I think we'll be able to hear each other, understand each other. We'll make coherent sense of the games, and I guess we could start with Memphis in against in Brad's territory here. Orlando. Orlando has not played well the last week or so. Had a stretch of four winnable games, lost three of them. Finally won last night against OKC. But Memphis is laying 6.5, 7-ish in Orlando. Total 230. Brad, this is your neck of the woods. You want to start us off? Grizzlies and Magic.
Yeah, I actually did a little parlay in this game. John Morant 25 plus in the Grizzlies money line. I like the Grizzlies at their opening 5.5. I just don't really like betting like 2 points of line movement, regardless of the sport. The Grizzlies are 4-0 against the spread in their last four, even without Desmond Bain. We have to acknowledge that this Magic team is banged up. Mo Wagner is out, still serving his suspension. So that's just more depth that they're going to struggle with and getting guys on the floor. And more importantly, both teams are on the second half of a back-to-back. Some might cite the fact that the Magic didn't have to travel. They get the second home game, but the Magic are 0-6 in all of their second half of their back-to-backs. And more importantly, their depth at the center position, or the reason why they have been good, is they're a little banged up. Bull's out. I wouldn't say he's banged up. He's out for health and safety protocols, but that does take away a lot of the size on the inside. I think John Morant's going to feast on this team. I've seen a lot of big superstars hit this 25 mark. I think he goes up 30. The only reason he wouldn't hit 30 is if it's a blowout, but we get to see the ball in John Morant's hands. So give me John Morant 25 plus and Grizzlies money line.
Yeah, I think Nick and I can both talk about getting burned with John Morant points because of Grizzlies blowout. We both kind of got smoked because he sat the fourth in the last one. So I think, yeah, the Grizzlies, even without Bane, they have enough guys that can step into there and share that offensive load. And the Magic being depleted on a back to back, it's not a great spot. So I'm seeing 6.5 on DK. I would be inclined to go that direction. You could
Yeah.
parlay do a little like kind of same game parlay type of a thing with a couple of these guys props. Jaron Jackson blocks is a good go to. Aquaman's rebounds, Jaws points, Jaws assists. I mean, you name it. I don't want to take all the good stuff, but I think there is some value there.
Yeah, I think another guy to look at maybe is Dylan Brooks 3-pointers. Probably opens up some looks with Bane out. You can get three threes for plus 140 and four threes for plus 410. If he's hot, he can knock him down, especially no Bane. I like that look as well. But yeah, I think the Grizzlies can handle him pretty easily tonight, especially after last night. I mean, their starters weren't burned out after that blowout, so I'm not really concerned about any minutes
Yeah.
restrictions or anything like that. So I think that's a good look as well.
Brad, we can't just take this. We got to fight back. We got to take our Magic here plus the points. We can't just let this sort of slander slide by.
Listen. I want the Magic to win, especially after the Heat lost yesterday. A disappointing, crazy loss because the Heat were up 6 with 5 minutes left to go, and then somehow blew that. But
Oh, and no
that's for
LeBron and
another
no
day.
Davis, just like the worst team in
Yeah,
basketball without those guys, but somehow it
yeah.
didn't matter.
And they, for some reason, Dennis Schroeder was cooking them the whole time, and they refused to put Jimmy Butler on him. Like I just kept watching them have Oladipo, who's terrible at defending, just get cooked after cooked. But anyways, the Magic, this is not the game they're gonna win. As much as I want to say, I believe we've seen what the Magic have become. I knew it was too good to be true. We went on the winning streak, and as a Magic fan, I go, it's just only a matter of time before we go back and we go on this bad stretch where we go like 1-7 or 2-8, and this is what we're in right now.
It's a matter of time though before they're good. I mean, you got to get some
Yeah,
shooting, but I mean, Palo isn't good. Palo is special. So when you have a special type, top 8, top 12 player, and it's a talented league, so who knows what his ceiling is. But when you have that kind of player, good things are ahead. I think good things are ahead for Orlando.
Yeah, I mean, your guys' uh, division futures. I mean, you got some great prices. They're not dead, but I think that money just investing it in their season wins. What do you need? 12 or 13 more
Which
from the
I
time we
have.
were
I think I got to get to 27 or something like that. So
27. I
27,
think you
28.
can get there just on the home form alone. You continue to play
Mhm.
500 at home. All you got to do is pick up one or two on the road the rest of the way. So I think you should be good with that ticket. But yeah, it's Magic are they're a year away from being a year away, as they
Yes.
say.
Yes. And hey, when you're betting something at 150 to 1, 200, 1, all you're saying is if this scenario played out 150 or 200 times, they would win
Right.
it once, which I think is a fair thing to say. Where if you played this season over 200 times, would they win the division once? Yeah, they probably would.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the Heat will eventually just kind of grind that thing out.
I would
But
think so. They're playing a little better. I would think so.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We can move on here.
And
Unless you guys have anything else, go ahead, Brad.
I have nothing in this. I was just gonna say Adebayo's playing much better. Well, he was at 4 straight 30-point games or something. Like they just when Heat play bad, it's not because they're playing bad. They just play slow and without any energy. It's hard to win games if you're just gonna be methodical, like slow, take your time. Sometimes you have to have a sense of urgency, especially against hungry teams who want to beat you.
Can't be
And
losing to a LeBronless Lakers though.
Yeah, that's a bad look.
Yeah. Oh my.
It's a bad look.
Really
Typical
bad look.
NBA. We talk about it all the time. These guys, they sit their best players. They have no chance of winning. And what you wake up the next morning. How did they win that game? But they did. Eli said we have a birthday in the chat. Is it Rihanna or Brianna? Brianna, happy birthday to Brianna.
Yeah, happy birthday.
I don't know that we
Happy
have any gifts
birthday,
for her.
Brianna. These tickets we're about to cash.
Signed memorabilia from Matkafee. I don't know what we can offer,
Right.
but happy birthday.
We could do some signed headshots from the team. We'll
For
send
sure.
them
Yeah.
over.
For sure. I don't know what they'd be worth or how quickly they, if they'd fit in the garbage, but we
Right.
can
Here,
absolutely
you
do
throw
that.
this away. It's like a Chinese food menu and passed out.
Yes. Moving on, a fun game. Boston's in Dallas after a terrible performance the other night in OKC. Boston's laying 3 in Dallas. Fun game. Luka against the Celtics. You get Tatum.
Okay.
Seems like everybody's playing. You would think Boston would bounce back. That was a horrible effort. I mean, we talked about it the other night on the show. No SGA. This is a good spot for Boston to roll. Who knows, though? You always got to watch out when these guys are missing their superstars. And OKC didn't just win the game. OKC absolutely buried it. Ended up winning by 30-something points. I think hit a second half money line too, which I'm sure was a ridiculous price. So, man, you never know. And boy, you'd think Boston after a performance like that would bounce back. So they're laying 3. I would lean to them in this game, maybe a cheap money line. Matkafee, you want to start us off here? The Celtics against the Mavericks.
Yeah, I would be inclined to take Boston. Without Finney-Smith, they lose a lot of their defensive ability, and they're not good at that anyway, defending the forwards. And so you got 2 dynamic scorers. One of them is going to be on the floor at all times, and Tatum and Brown. So they should get theirs. And I think they're favored because you get Rob Williams in here who can do a number on Luka. It's just another body to throw in his way. And I think that's just the response, like people have mentioned. Like, yeah, we get blown out on a terrible effort at OKC. This is a nice bounce back spot. And yeah, you're going to get up for it. It's a primetime game. We like to say that, there's not games that are more important than others and things like that. You get a lot of that coach speak. But this is going to be a game that's circled. This is 2 MVPs. You're going to go at it on national television. Like, this is not a game that you get anything other than an A or an A+ effort. So Celtics really do need to lock in here. It's kind of hard to trust them, but they're in the dog days of the season. I understand the trepidation after you just watch them just get their doors blown off by Lou Dort and Josh Giddey, but Luka could still get 40 points and the Celtics could win this thing by 10 or 12 points. So I think having Time Lord in there, it's such a huge factor for the Celtics defense interior. And not that the Mavericks want to pound the paint, but I think they've got enough defenders to just kind of limit it to Luka. Don't let any of the other guys go off. Don't let anybody else go crazy. So I think a short 3, I'd be inclined to lay it, but I would also be inclined to like pair it with one of Tatum or Brown going off, probably Tatum, just because I don't see a game script where they cover and he doesn't score 30 points. So hope I didn't take all the talking points.
Nick,
guys.
what you got here?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything he said there. They got embarrassed the other night. I see Tatum maybe with a 40-point game tonight, something crazy. Him and Luka going back and forth. Jaylen Brown's been hot too. Like we talked about Tuesday, though, I mean, we count out Dallas every time, and then Luka just drags them along. So anything's possible, as we saw. But I do like the Celtics in this spot, the spread, and then I do like if you want to pair that with Tatum, a PPD or something like that. I think he has a good game tonight. Even rebounding, I think he has a good game.
Okay. Yeah, no, Nick, I kind of agree what you're saying. Like, and the Mavericks are just one of those teams, like week in and week out. And I know I was down on the Mavericks to start the year. Some reason I bet on Luka to an MVP while being down on the Mavericks because I thought he was gonna have to carry the team more. But the role players have been doing a pretty good job, which kind of leads me to my bet. I ended up taking Tim Hardaway Jr. over 15.5 points. So when I was watching the Celtics game, I watched pretty much every Celtics game, and one thing that I noticed is they overcommit and they overhelp way too much. They switch with bad communication, and it's not really bad to do that. You know, if you switch a ton, your communication will get better throughout the year. But like you guys said, this is the middle of the season, the boring part of the season. They weren't up for that game. But one thing I think they're going to do is make sure if they get beat, it's going to be by anybody other than Luka Doncic, and so that's what's leading me to take Tim Hardaway Jr. Especially no Dorian Finney-Smith. It's going to take away more. It's going to give me more 3 opportunities for Hardaway Jr. Really interesting to note here too that 52% of the money is on Dallas here, so a lot of people aren't buying it. But I also went back and I looked and I was like thinking about because let's talk about the Magic for one more second. When the Magic beat them back-to-back games. Special for like all the superstars in that game that scored 25 plus.
I think you got to play it. I think it's got a small edge, and it's the shot volume will be there.
Yeah.
I'm not really worried about anybody. I mean, on paper, I guess Brown is the guy that could be, give you the sweat. But I think it's one you go ahead and take.
His volume's been crazy though lately, so he's gonna shoot.
He's on my fantasy team. I love it. Except he couldn't get more than 2 rebounds.
The rebound. Brown's rebounds was really poor against OKC. You would think that would be a concerted effort for him to crash the glass more. It's a weird thing. In the last 3 games, the Celtics, their opponents are shooting 47.7% from behind the arc, which is ridiculously high. Worst in the league by a significant margin. Now they played the Thunder, the Nuggets, and the Clippers over that span. So it seems like, behind the arc is a way to attack him. And Tim Hardaway, if he's hot, he can get you 5 or 6 of them. So
for sure.
You might get it. Another name that has kind of been thrown into the gulag this year is Reggie Bullock. He's been pretty awful this year, but you would think he'll get some shots and some looks at some open corner threes, or you just kind of have to scroll down and look at some value. Luka is so high, but I still think he could probably get his numbers. Because I almost feel like the Celtics will want him to do it all. They'll want him to do everything on offense and him to do everything on defense, work him constantly, wear him out, and just prevent everybody else. Because if he scores 45, but they hold him to 6 assists, they'll win the game easy. Like I don't know. Well, I'm fascinated to see how it plays out. But yeah, it's as it usually does. It'll come down to the Mavs role players hitting their 3-point shots.
If we
If they
think
do it, they can beat anybody.
if we think Boston's going to be pretty motivated for this game off a bad effort, maybe would you think about a Dallas team total under 114.5 if you're going to get Boston's best effort defensively?
I was just looking at that actually, and I was like, I thought Boston was supposed to be this defensive team, but
Right.
if you look at some of their game logs, they've been giving up points like crazy, even games that they've won.
Especially games on the road.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know. It's just we were talking earlier about betting against superstars, and if there's a game Luka's in, it's just hard for me to.
Yeah, the small changes between Udoka's team, they're a little bit better. They're a little more efficient offensively this year, and a little worse defensively. And I don't know if Missoula has that's just a tweak, or if he just doesn't have the same the pull to say, hey, we're going to lock in, or if the team is just not as locked in yet. Remember, last year they were 500 at this point. They didn't really hit steam until the second half of the season. So
I think they were 100-1 at this point last year.
Right. Yeah. People were saying break up Brown and Tatum. This is not working. Like, what a disaster. And then it all just caught fire, and now they've been an underdog one time this entire NBA season. So I think, like most teams that come off a finals run, they just are going through the motions some, and I think picking your spots is important here. You want to get the Celtics on a game where they'll be up for it.
I think we're going to put together a same game parlay for that. So everyone just, I guess, think of a leg, and we'll come back to it just so we're not doing it too much on the air and dragging it out. But we'll come back to that after, I guess, we'll do this next game, and then we'll come back to the same game parlay and see what we come up with. The next game is Utah -7 in Houston. Jazz Rockets total 231.5. This looks a little high. Utah laying 7 on the road to anybody. I don't know. I'd probably take the points here with Houston. Brad, what do you got here? Jazz and Rockets.
Yeah, I wanted to take like Rockets plus 10.5 plus Mavericks plus Memphis money line as my parlay of the day, and I was just like, because it just feels like too many points, right? Like on the road you're just laying 7 was nuts to me, and I ended up laying off. I didn't have any plays for this, but I expect to see fireworks. I expect to see a ton of points, a lot of threes taken in this game. I was looking for guys to find their 3 props, but I didn't find any that were really like making my mouth drool.
Brad, your shirt's getting some love in
I
the
love
chat.
all you guys. Thank you. If you guys want to know, it's Express. They don't pay me to say that, but this is Express. Express, if you're listening, you can pay me to say whatever shirt I'm wearing. Just come on.
Oh yeah, they back in a previous life, I was A-list. I was in there all the time.
I used to work there. I love that.
A lot of work shirts came from the old Express store. But yeah, I'm with you, man, on the threes. I think it's a good look. I think Beasley's going to fill it up. Markkanen's been kind of inconsistent from behind the arc. His overall scoring has been really not dropped off, but his 3-point shooting is kind of wild. The volume is still there, but it's just not falling for him right now. Beasley, on the other hand, I think his floor is 3 made threes tonight. I know his line's 3.5, so you can get that, I think, around $120 for a Beasley 4-piece. And if you want to run him up to 5, I think you're getting like plus 250 kind of range. The Rockets, it's been a second since I've looked it up. I could look it up. I don't want to do it on air, but I know they're near the bottom in terms of opponents made threes per game. So the Jazz want to shoot them anyway. And so Beasley and Markkanen are good targets. Olynyk, he's going to shoot his 4 or 5 per game. He's good for at least 1. His 2, I think, is plus money. He played there last year, so he's familiar with the rims and kind of the sight lines and things. I think that could be a good look. Clarkson by volume.
Yeah, Clarkson was over 2.5. Like I thought he's going to take like
that's a good
minimum.
line for him.
Yeah. The Jazz will shoot. They're going to shoot like 30 to 43s tonight. So I'm with you, man. I think it's a good look.
Yeah, I got my favorite play of the night is in this game. Kevin Porter Jr. 20, 25, and 30-point ladder. He's hit 20, I think, in 5 out of 8. He's had 30 plus in 2 of those games. If you can get 30 plus, I got it at plus 800, so it's pretty good odds for that. As far as the Jazz's defense, at the point guard position is severely lacking. Whether they have, I don't know who they have on him, Clarkson or whoever guards him, but they've given up a ton of points at the point guard position. And like you said, 3-pointers, he's kind of a streaky shooter for threes, but he's very capable of hitting 3 to 4 3-pointers if he just based on the volume that he takes. So I really like that spot for him tonight. And then also for the Jazz really struggle against the center position. I don't know if you want to ride with Sengun, or you could look at his points or rebounds, or maybe make a parlay and kind of lower the alt lines on those a little if you want to be safe. But the Jazz have really struggled, whether it's Kessler or whoever, giving up points to the center position as well.
Yeah, we can go back to the same game parlay for Boston in Dallas. I would lean towards taking the 7. Haven't bet it yet, but I might end up with that in the account. Same game parlay. I will offer my team total of Dallas under 114.5. I'll see what you guys have. I can alter it. I don't want to conflict with what you guys have. If you guys have Luka scoring 50 plus, well, I guess both could happen, but want to make sure it's positively correlated.
Is his alt line of 60 up or not?
I'm not sure. That's
Yeah.
a good question.
Negative correlation is usually good. It used to, like 2 years ago, it would send our parlay to the moon, but they've nerfed that. So it's much more. Unders just don't have the same impact in a same game parlay as they should or they used to. So
okay, real quick, Will, what did you want there? Sorry.
Dallas team total under 114.5 with the idea that, hey, we think Boston, after a terrible performance, is going to come out and play with some intensity. I haven't looked for a first half team total. If you could isolate it even more first quarter to think, all right, bad performance, we got to really lock it up here. You avoid overtime, you avoid foul stuff late, and you think first quarter team total, which some books offer, not everyone does, first half team total, but I'm okay with this, the team total under for the game.
I've got mine.
Go ahead.
Derek White over 2.5 rebounds.
Okay.
Wow, tasty, spicy.
Brad, you got anything you want to throw in?
Well, if we're going under, I don't think you guys want to take a player prop over for points.
Depends. I mean, team total. I mean, you could pick a Celtics guy over just because if Dallas stays under, it doesn't mean every single one of their players is going to stay under.
Yeah. What do you got? McAfee?
All right, so I've got one on this game, and it's already posted in my channel. I'm gonna post it on Twitter here soon, and it's just around the big 3 stars in this match, and I've got some alt lines. What odds are we targeting for this parlay? I guess that would help me. Are we looking to do 4? Like even money props to get it around 10 to 1?
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Nobody's going to turn back a 10 to 1 winner. So if we can give the peeps a 10 to 1 winner, I think that's a nice little
yeah,
treat.
that should play. I think I'm willing to go. I'm going to take Jason Tatum over 7.5 rounds.
Okay.
I like that one.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. All right, Brad.
All right, let's
Final
see.
touch here.
Man, do we just go with my player to score 50? No, 15's whack. Let's go with. All right, I'm going to do it. Just call me crazy, but I'm going Tim Hardaway Jr. over 3.5 threes. It's plus 128. It will make us spicy.
There it is. So we got Tim Hardaway Jr. over 3.5 threes. Team total under 114.5 for Dallas. Derek White over 2.5 rebounds. Tatum over 7.5 rebounds. And that gives us plus 1263. That's not bad.
Wow.
That's not bad. That's a nice little team play. I like that. Any objections?
No, because I think the under is correlated with our Celtics guys getting rebounds.
Right.
And if the Mavs are behind, then they're gonna try. I think they'll be trying to shoot threes no matter what. But yeah, I mean, if the Celtics get up to a lead and Mavs are in comeback mode, I mean, Tim's going to be chucking them. So
Yeah,
I think this
we
could
need a
hit.
slow start. Slow start for the Mavs early. Bunch of boards, get our boards out of the way, and then shooting threes late.
I like it. I like it. All right. Anything else before we move on to, I think, the final game here?
No, I got nothing else. You know, if they would drop a couple things, there's a few more role players I'd like to see some stuff for. And I'm not seeing like Time Lord in here for any of his props, and I'm not seeing. I want to double check the. Keep an eye out for the late drops closer to game time. You know, in another hour, hour and a half, we may get some stuff for like Green and things like that. No, Green's out tonight. So some of those role players on Dallas that on that second unit, I think could definitely get some burn. Bertams and players like that. But yeah, we can move on.
All right. The bank is open, presented by Pickett Sports. Download the Pickett app for all your betting needs. Bet splits, trends, track your bets. There's bet splits. There's everything you possibly need. Pickett Sports. Download their app. It is free. It is very helpful. So check that out. The final game of the night, the bane of all of our existence, is a Thursday tradition. The Clippers are in action. They are getting 6 in Dallas. We should just have a weekly, sort of like a little game show of who's playing this week for the Clippers, who's playing tonight for the Clippers. It's always a guessing game. I think it was Zach Lowe of ESPN had a great line. He's like, they are less of a basketball team and more of an experiment than anything because they just never have their team on the floor. But it's Denver laying 6 against the Clips. Nick, start us off here. Clippers and Nuggets. Who do you like? Who do you got?
Oh, my favorite team to talk about. What's the word on Paul George? Have they said anything on Paul
I don't
George?
think he's around for a little while now. I think it's that's a lengthy injury, I believe. Somewhat
lengthy.
Paul, I
always
think
thought
I
it was
mean he's
game time decision. That's
yeah,
That's what I
okay.
saw.
I misunderstood that.
the
Favorite Clippers phrase: game time decision.
yeah, I think
Tweaked
we'll
hamstring. He's going to play with a tweaked hamstring.
I would assume he might
That's
sit.
stupid.
Yeah, I wouldn't think he'd play.
They usually have an abundance of caution.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Abundance of, yeah.
Going on 3 or 4 years now. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Go ahead, Nick. You got anything?
I don't have any plays for this game. I kind of like Michael Porter Jr. threes, getting plus money at 3 of them. And then and something tells me Reggie Jackson tonight. I don't know what angle I'm going to look at, but if George is out, maybe assists. I don't know. The Nuggets give up a lot of assists because they really don't play much defense, but I'll have to figure that out. I don't know. Let me look what his assists are at right now.
All right. While you look, Brad, anything for you in this one?
3.5 assists for Jackson. I might take that.
I'm not crazy enough to play this, but if I were, I would play Zubac over 9.5 points. Just such a good spot for him against this Nuggets team who's just kind of lackadaisical in the middle of the court in the paint. I just feel like they're going to go to trap, and then we're going to see a bunch of really easy cleanups or alley-oops. The Zubac alley-oops are nothing fun to watch, but they're going to count for points. That's all that matters if you take the over. This is one of those games where I literally think this is what's going to happen. I'm going to see if my first 2 bets of the day hit, and I'm like feeling a little spicy. One hits, the second one hits, and then I take Zubats over, and then I take Kawhi to 25 plus for plus money. All I need to do is hit one of those guys, and I figure it's a good day.
Update on the Reggie Jackson. If Paul George sits, which you could play now and just hope he does, he is averaging 5.4 assists without Paul George, has games of 6, 6, 8, and 12 mixed in there, and his line's 3.5. So I might take a look at that later and see if you could maybe do something crazy with that. Just a long shot there. I don't know how high they go up. They only take it to 6 assists on FanDuel is plus 340, so I might look at that too.
All right, there's good info right there, Matt. Anything for you on this one?
I mean, Paul George, you got to have clarity on that before you can really decide because the
Yep.
usage just will change drastically for everybody.
What
Um,
percentage would you put on it that he plays? I would 10% or something. I'd be shocked if he plays again. I don't know how serious
With
he
the
is.
yeah, I
with
mean,
the bum
it's pretty
hamstring.
low.
Yeah.
I would think, especially, yeah, it being just a game in January, I would say it's pretty low. So, in that case, there's going to be value on Kawhi. There's going to be value on Marcus Morris. Um, some value on Norm Powell as well. So those guys will all bump up in usage. I think you could get some good value there. Um, in terms of the other side of the things, the Nugs, uh, with Batum out and George, let's assume he's out. That really hurts their depth at the four. And I know George is a 3 or a 4 and can sometimes play the 2. It just kind of depends. But the Clippers like to go small a lot. So uh, more often than not, he's a 3 or a 4, and Nick Batum's a 4, and sometimes a 5 out there. So I think they'll be a little undersized at that spot. Marcus Morris might have to try to play some power forward. Robert Covington. These guys are good NBA pros, but they're not elite defenders. So I like Aaron Gordon points tonight. I don't know where it's at exactly right now. If you want to pull it up, I don't have
I think
the
it's
book out.
16.5. I looked at
Yeah,
it.
I got 15.5 on Camby this morning.
Ooh,
So
nice.
I'm assuming 16's there. You look at his game logs against LA, he destroys them. And that's even with we've got to look at the Clipper or the Nuggets with Porter and Murray and without Porter and Murray because we've had so many weird splits and those guys get a lot of shots, but he's had no problem doing it. He plays almost all the minutes when Jokic is on the floor because they know Malone knows that having that having him on the floor at the same time as Jokic, they just have a great interplay. He plays off him so well. The Clippers, I think, will try to double Jokic and keep his scoring down a little bit, and that's why I think you could see Gordon have a big game. Outside of that, nothing I really love yet. I want to see the menu expand. Obviously, they're holding things up until we get the clarity on Kawhi, or I'm sorry, on Paul George. Because then once we get all those, there'll be some value for sure in the Clippers role players. There could be a blowout potential here for Denver. I think that they might run them out of the gym. But who knows? We'll see.
Who knows? They don't like to play defense either.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Denver Clippers obviously it gets lost because it was in the bubble. It's right at the start of football season. But man, one of the all-time gag jobs in the history of sports was the Clippers being up 3-1. A series I think they were minus 1,000 in to begin with. They were up 20 the end of third quarter of Game 5, 15-point lead in Game 6, and maybe a 20-point lead, and then a double-digit lead in Game 7, and lost all three of them. One of the great collapses of all time. So. A series that sort of gets lost in history and really just exemplifies the Clippers and their inability to do it on the big stage. And really, this hasn't, look, they got George, they got Kawhi, they've had good teams, they just haven't been able to get over the hump and get to a finals here. So we covered all the NBA games. Before we get out of here, let's go around the table here. We haven't been on. Nick was on Tuesday, but I haven't talked to you guys about this. How do you think the NFL handles the schedule, the playoffs? Doesn't sound like Bills-Bengals is going to be played. What's the scenario here for the solution, Brad? If you want to start, I can start. It doesn't, Brad.
Yeah,
you
I'll
can go
start.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was reading about the added 8th team. I think it's ridiculous, honestly.
Yes.
I don't think a team that didn't qualify for the playoffs should get into the playoffs because the game wasn't played. And I honestly was thinking, like, you have that extra week, right? Why not use that extra week, that off week? I know it's unfair, but you're playing for number 1 seeding. You're playing for things that are important. Why not use that week that's baked into the schedule? I think that moving forward, the NFL is going to have safeguards for this situation in the future, because it doesn't just have to be the unfortunate events of someone almost losing their lives, but it could be a citywide blackout, a weather issue that postpones a game or has to cancel a game late in the season. I just don't feel like these 8 teams should be rewarded.
No.
So I would rather them, go by winning percentage, even if that's unfair, than reward an 8th team.
It's going to be unfair to somebody no matter what you do. You can't put an 8th team in. First of all, I think they've debunked it a little bit in that, I think DeMaurice Smith is the head of the Players Association, came out and said it has to be voted on. You can't just add an 8th team at the last minute. I mean, we're 40 something hours away from starting week 18. We're just going to add teams, uneliminate teams.
Yeah.
The Titans didn't play their guys Thursday because it didn't matter. Now, oh, by the way, it matters. Certain teams put guys on IR because the teams that, like, you can't just sort of put the toothpaste back in the tube here. I think, look, the simplest answer is probably the best one, and that is to just go by winning percentage. You know what? It's not going to be fair for somebody, but if you want to split the baby a little bit, if it comes down to Kansas City and Buffalo in the title game, you just play the game in Indianapolis or somewhere random where it's a neutral field, and you just sort of divvy up the perks here of how to split up the benefits of being the 1 seed. You know what, Buffalo, if you're going to have to play in the first round as the 2 seed against the 7 in New England, you know what, that's how it's got to be. I think that the easy answer is to just avoid as much more like damage as possible, affect as few teams as possible, just go by winning percentage and sort of move on here.
Yeah.
I like that solution you just said. If you're telling me I get to go a couple miles down the road and get to watch Kansas City and Buffalo in the AFC title game and Lucas Oil, I will be there. Sign me up. Like, I vote for that. But yeah, I think like what Brad was saying, just call it a no contest, call it a tie, whatever you got to do to just close the chapter on the game. I don't think those 2 teams can logistically work that out.
Right.
To redo all of that.
The time has passed. It would have had to been Wednesday or something. I mean, to ask these teams to play again, then play another game, and then play in the playoffs all within a week and a half span. You just can't do it.
Yep, can't do it. So I think that's the only common sense solution. And I mean, we'll see what happens, how these teams respond and play here in week 18. It may just take care of itself. And, we don't really even need to have these discussions. But assuming everybody wins and everything else, then the season's long enough. Right. I mean, shit, until last year, we ran off a 16-game schedule. Before that, it was a 14 game and a 12 game. And then, it's so there's always, ways to do this. So I think, like you said, it'll have to just go by the math. And if they got a neutral side then I hope they pick Indy. That would be great.
Yeah, my head always goes, I worked in a baseball clubhouse for 10 years and had to deal with the getting teams ready for traveling, picking up stuff when they get back. I would just not want to be on the other side of this when you're switching locations, dealing with flights, dealing with hotels, dealing with everything. I'm glad I'm not on the logistics side of this, but I like all your guys' thoughts here. I mean, eventually you have to move on from that game. You have to decide what you're going to do with it. Like, it's just kind of hanging over.
I think if I read it correctly, they've decided they're not going to play it this week, and it's very unlikely they're going to play it, period, which is kind of what we pieced together.
Right, yeah. I just mean like what you're going to rule it as. Yeah, like you gotta make a decision on how you're going to do that, and I guess move forward with the rest of the season. And the longer it goes on, the tougher it's going to be to
just affect the fewest teams as possible. Because if you start bringing, we're going to put 8 teams in the NFC playoffs. Now the Eagles don't get a bye. It's like, well, if I'm the Eagles, why do I not get a bye? Just because Buffalo and Cincy didn't finish their game. Now I lose my bye. I think try to affect the fewest amount of teams as possible. And that is, this game never happened. It didn't, and Buffalo can't cry about not being the 1 seed because, first of all, they were losing in the game. They were on defense. They're on the road. You can't just give them a win for that game. So I get the sense a lot of people want to say, well, Buffalo beat them head to head, so give Buffalo the 1 seed. I can't give Buffalo the 1 seed where Kansas City, if they win Saturday, they'll have a better record. I can't just give Buffalo the 1 seed based on, well, they would have came back and won. I don't think that's fair either.
Yep.
All right. Anything you guys like for Sunday? I mean, we'll be back on Sunday to do the show, but anything you guys have bet? Anything you guys have your? Oh, we won't be back before the Saturday show unless something changes. Anything for the Saturday games?
I didn't have anything yet.
I like
I know
Vegas.
there's
Kansas City doesn't seem to have an interest or an ability to cover these big numbers. It's amazing for a team that's that good. It's just winning games. They just can't cover spreads at all. I think they're 3-13, 4-12 against the spread. So I would look towards Vegas plus the points.
so it's 9. Is that where it is?
Yeah, 9.5, something like that. I think they're trying to take it out of teaser range.
9. Okay, 9.5. So, I mean, I think the Chiefs will win the game. I think this is a really, really good weekend to do a donkey 10-leg money line parlay because there's very clearly teams that are trying to win and very clearly teams that are trying to lose. So I put it in my account. I don't have it in front of me, but I'll look at the schedule. I played Kansas City, Jacksonville. I skipped Tampa and Atlanta because I was like, that we don't have clarity on what the Bucs are going to do. Bills, Vikings, Bengals, Colts. I know that might be crazy, but that'll be a game that Saturday's going to try to win. And why the hell would Houston want to win the game? That doesn't help them. They can try to lock up that number one pick.
Houston got the memo last week to stay the hell away from a victory. They
right.
No doubt.
I stayed away from the Jets and the Dolphins, and I think I stayed away from Carolina, New Orleans, and Pittsburgh, Cleveland. Played the Chargers, played the Eagles, played the Niners, played the Seahawks, played the Cowboys.
This is all in a parlay?
Yeah, just like a 10-leg. I picked 10 of the games from the weekend.
My man had a lot of fun,
and it was like 12. It paid like 12-1.
Yeah.
There's some like minus 400s in there, and there's some like really gross money line. But to me, it's pretty easy to handicap these teams' motivations. So I think the board is clearer than ever this week. Now, could something happen where somebody gets hurt or something crazy? Yeah, but all these scenarios are pretty darn clear of who's trying and who's not. So
my only pushback would be something like Dallas, where their only motivation is, hey, if Philly loses, we get the 1 seed. They look up and Philly's up 21-3 on the Giants. Dallas says, all right, we're not getting the 1 seed. We're going to pull our guys. Something like that. But generally, I'm with your line of thinking. They do sort of tax these teams that have the motivation, like Rams, Seahawks. All right, Seahawks need the game, the Rams don't. They sort of jack up the line, and we saw that last year with Jags Colts, where Colts need the game, Jags don't. Well, the Jags beat the hell out of them as 17-point dogs. So strange stuff happens, but I'm generally with you. Nick, anything to add on the final week before we get out of here?
I mean, if the Eagles do not win this week for me, I might be done. Might be done. I need them for a futures bad for the division.
Are you going to edge? Take a little plus 14 or something?
I mean, I could, but I gotta trust. I mean, I gotta trust them to win one of these games.
They should. I think that's going to be Tyrod Taylor. We've heard different things about the Giants. Originally, they were going to play their guys, but now it sounds like they might not. Even if they play their guys, I can't really see them hanging with a Philly team that's desperate. Philly's beat up. Philly's not 100% right now.
I still like Philly. I have Philly to win the division. I'm not hedging, so.
All right, we're good.
You have a massive, middle there with catching 14 points, but the Giants, I mean, if they're resting everybody, then they'll get blown out.
Yeah, if I lose a 14-point favorite loses, and that's how I lose the division. Like that's just me just saying.
Yep.
And you're probably getting like a plus
wasn't meant to be
or so money line. You could probably put a little slice. They don't give you the full boat with the money line, but you probably put a little on the money line. I don't know. You're probably good to just let it ride.
I think you got to let that thing ride too. What about the awards? Have you guys looked at the recent shifts? I know there's been a lot of movement here, and maybe we lock in our predictions here with 1 week to go, and maybe we revisit them once they've announced the awards or something. See what do you think?
Should we save that till the end of the season? We'll see one more week and then we can lock them in because we got a few weeks.
Yeah, we got one more week, but I just want to say this. If Brock Purdy doesn't win Rookie of the Year, it's because they lose this game this week.
Really?
You think it's a lock?
Brock Purdy has the number one passer rating since he started. Mr. Irrelevant. The story's there. 6-0 as a starter. Like I don't care about the quality teams he plays. And the worst part is, like I can't give it to Wilson. You can't give it to Wilson because he will forever be compared to Odell and Jamar Chase. He has 4 touchdowns. Is going to have like 500 or 600 yards less than both of them.
It's
Kenneth
a very
Walker,
strange year. It's a very
Kenneth Walker's
strange year.
okay. I'm already on Kenneth Walker. So like I was okay when I saw the new odds come out. But man, if the odds can just get a little bit more even with those 3, I will probably hedge just because I got plus 800 for Purdy.
Remember we were talking about it, Matkafee? What was it? After his first or second start, there were some like 60 to 1s. Like, we missed the best number. I know people bet him at 750 to 1.
Wow.
Man, I still don't think he'll win it, but it's a year where there's just not an obvious candidate. So sort of all the old rules go out the window. So he could win it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one. I think I did grab a slice of him at whatever it was, 7 or 8 to 1, just to kind of move off. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, Walker might get it here if he runs over this Rams defense, a couple touchdowns here. Like, maybe he's the guy. Yeah, I mean, I think this is your 3-horse race here. It is interesting. What about comeback player? I think that's probably the tightest one, right?
Oh my God,
I have no freaking idea. I would default to Geno because I think it's been the best story. I mean, it's been well documented. What is he really coming back from? He was never good in the first place. I sort of look at it as best redemption story. I guess it would go to Geno. Wouldn't be shocked if it's Barkley. Wouldn't be shocked if it's McCaffrey. I have no idea what to make of it. I would lean towards Geno.
McCaffrey though. Did you put anything on McCaffrey when we talked about it on the show?
Yes.
Okay.
But I had Barkley 25 to 1 before the season. I don't think I gave it out in the chat, but I did bet him 25 to 1. So then when Geno was playing well, I started to bet Geno. I bet McCaffrey at 7 to 1. So I'm pretty much covered. I have no idea who's going to win.
Me either. Like not even remotely idea.
It's fun. I mean, and so the 2 that are, I guess, locked up is Bosa for defensive player and Sauce for rookie, defensive rookie. And I guess Mahomes for MVP is pretty well locked up.
Yep.
So coach, like I know Shanahan's like now neck and neck, and Dable's right behind him.
I am Team Dable. I think that team is absolute hot garbage. It's a miracle he got them to the playoffs. We can poke holes in any of it, but I just think, nobody talks about the Giants without going in the national media. And you're capping the voters as much as you're capping anything.
Yeah.
You hear the media all the time. Brian Dable, what a job he's done. So I think Dable will win. I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't, but I think Dable, and it's amazing. Dable was 30 to 1 2 weeks ago. I went on the air, and I think I probably said it on here. The Giants were like minus 1,000 to make the playoffs. Campbell was plus 175 to win the award, and the Lions were plus money to make the playoffs. So sometimes these markets make no sense. Dable being 30 to 1 2 weeks ago made no sense. He's like 3 to 1 now, plus 250. Yeah. I would lean towards Dable winning the award.
I think the New York market helps a lot, know. So I wouldn't be shocked there, but like it's so crazy because like these guys, you can poke holes at all of them. Like Shanahan, his team is loaded. But I know he is playing with a 3rd string quarterback, still getting the job done. And then you think about Dable. They were projected to win 8 games, so they're going to be a 9-win team. So there's like a lot where you want to talk the projections. Like for me, this market would be something that I'm so glad I did not play. Like I'm so glad.
When does the voting take place for Coach of the Year?
I think shortly after the season. Baseball is famous for dragging it out. I think football, we get it the week of the Super Bowl. Sometimes it's been the night before. Last year they did like the Thursday before on an award show. So sometime during the playoffs, I think the week of the Super Bowl we find out.
Okay. Yeah. I was just thinking with everything that's happened lately, a flyer on Sean McDermott just bouncing back from.
I don't think so.
I don't know if there's any narrative to that or not. So. If he suckers any votes.
I think the problem with he's suffering from Andy Reid's problem is like you've got an MVP quarterback on your team, you're not allowed to win the Coach of the Year.
True.
It just it's an automatic disqualifier. And so I mean I know that being said, like you use that logic and you connect Sirianni to Hurts and you throw his name out, but like Hurts never showed this level of play before Sirianni, so you can't say,
Right.
oh, he
Discredit it.
inherited this great player. Nah, he elevated Hurts, and the team elevated, and they're going to have the best record in the NFC. So I think because he goes head to head with Dable, and will have when it mattered, and they were both trying, they beat him by 26, and then now that the Giants aren't going to try, they're going to get steamrolled here. So that'll leave a final impression in their mouth as like voters like, okay, I mean, number one seed, and he dominated in his division here. So I don't know. It's great. It's great. I could see the Shanahan thing too, because he's now on his rookie quarterback, but man, yeah, I think it's the defense. It's not as much Shanahan what he's doing on offense. Like it's this defense is why they're so good.
Yeah, it's just the pound for pound best roster when you got McCaffrey,
Yeah.
Debo. I mean, they're just Kittle.
so
They're
deep.
just
And
a
Brock
really good
Purdy,
team.
like this stack.
What do you do with Lance?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a separate thing, but what do you do? Does Lance ever see the field? Like, what is the Lance plan now?
I mean, you
clearly
got
a-
John
he
Lynch.
plays with your boy. He plays with your boy Malik Willis. Then
Yeah, mean,
I saw
he's-
someone post something that I thought was pretty compelling. Like, if the Ravens fumble the bag with Lamar, like I'm Shanahan, I trade Lance in a first round pick for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it's weird because I think there's no way Lamar leaves Baltimore. I think it's just too much of a perfect fit, and they built their whole team around him, and they drafted according to that.
Money could be the way,
They'll
especially
pay
getting
him.
hurt this year.
yeah.
Especially getting
They'll
hurt
pay
this
him.
year. Like, yeah,
There's no way they let him get out of there. Like,
no, not seeing what
he's
Tyler
gone.
Huntley's been doing.
yeah, I think with San Fran, you let Lance come in, and he'll show next year, like he'll compete with Purdy, and the winner of the job will win the job. And I mean, I think Lance will start as the QB1, and Purdy will be there, and the team will, or the fan base will, if Lance is struggling, say you got to go back to Purdy, because obviously
It's gonna
Jimmy
be tough
G's
for
out of
Lance
there.
too, because
Yeah, it's tough.
tough.
Yeah.
Like Lance is going to have to answer for every loss that he's going to have. His
Right.
leash is going to be so short. They're going to be booing. We want Purdy. I can already see some clever chant
Let's complicate it. San Fran makes the Super Bowl. They don't win the Super Bowl, but they make it. Because if they win the Super Bowl, like, hey, it's Purdy's job. Let's say they make the Super Bowl. Now what do you do? Is it still Lance's job if Purdy just took him to the Super Bowl and won?
I mean,
you risk that draft capital on him.
Jimmy G did nothing but take him to NFC title games. And
Yeah.
they're like, can't wait to get this
quick.
guy out of here.
Didn't they miss
I don't-
the
history of loyalty
playoffs?
there.
Didn't they miss the playoffs the year after? They did, because he got hurt, and they missed the playoffs the year they drafted Lance. So it's not like they went to the Super Bowl and then drafted him. So it's tough. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It is fascinating. They've got a good problem, obviously, to have. So it's weird. You can sell the farm like they did to move up to take Lance, and then you grab a guy with a throwaway pick at the end. And
Think about that team, if they had Parsons or some of the guys they could have picked, because that was a really good draft.
Right.
When some of these guys, my goodness.
I think they just saw the Josh Allen comparisons, and Purdy, he's played probably like, and I'm just kind of throwing
10
a number
million
out.
more games.
Yeah, exactly. Like the amount of reps that he's had ahead of Lance is crazy. He's older than Lance. He's been in a long, college offense as a starter for as long as he has. Lance has played 20 games total, at the college and pro level. So I
worry that's development Lance can never get back, because you missed the year because of COVID. You missed the year for another thing. It's like, man, we're going back a long time now before this guy's played any football.
We're gonna see
the league doesn't just sit around and wait for you.
We're gonna see a lot of teams risk heavy draft capital trying to get the next Josh Allen. Like, we're gonna see it with Anthony Richardson. Watch, he's gonna be a top 15 pick. That guy can't throw a football to save his life, but the fact that he's big, fast, and has a super rocket arm, it's gonna put teams. It's gonna set some teams back.
Yeah.
It might not be him, but we're gonna see a lot of misses.
Yeah.
One more thing I want to talk about, guys, because this is Will and I. We texted about this, but Brad, I know you're heavy into college football.
Yeah.
Probably more than the rest of us. And we were debating the number one pick. So let's assume the Texans lose to the Colts. And they're locked in. Even if they don't, But just in general, for the number one pick, obviously there's a lot of quarterback talent. And most people are thinking it's it's either going to be Young or Stroud. Who do you think, and why do you think? Does Levis shoot up and surprise everybody? I know.
I think if you take quarterback, you have to go Bryce Young. The things that he can do with the football, his football IQ is if Bryce Young would be 6 foot, if he would be 6 foot, 200 pounds, he'd be hands down the number one draft pick, and no one would be talking about it. But what would I do if I were the Texans? I would not draft a quarterback, because you have to ask yourself, are you a Bryce Young, a CJ Stroud, a Will Levis away from being a playoff contender? What is your plans for the defensive line? What is your plans for your secondary? What is your plans for your linebacking core? It all starts, if you look at every Super Bowl team, they've been exceptional except for, we'll take out the Kansas City Chiefs, even though they did get after the quarterback sometimes. They've been exceptional at getting after the quarterback. I would take Jalen Carter. I would take Will Anderson.
Who's your quarterback then?
I'm saying you let it ride, or you try to nail one of these. You try to
They're
nail
taking a quarterback.
They have 14 next. You try to nail these picks. But if you take a pick, I think you have to go. If you take a quarterback, you have to go Bryce Young. He is the things this man can do with the football. I don't care about, I talked about this on BetMGM's show, where people want to talk about measurables so much. They just fall in love with measurables. Where if a player is smart on the field,
I'm one of those guys.
I mean, I'm in between you guys, because I think, size doesn't win. Size isn't everything, but man, he is. I love Young, but man, he is not just short. He is tiny and narrow.
I think that I think that you'll be able to put some size on him. And the biggest difference between him and other little quarterbacks who've come is he's not looking to scramble. His arm talent is so ridiculous to where all he has to do is move the pocket with his legs. Unlike a Kyler Murray, who, when Kyler Murray is out of the pocket, he wants to run the ball, and Kyler Murray's football IQ is not nearly as high. I kind of equate it kind of like a Drew Brees, where Drew Brees is a thick guy. If they can beefing up Bryce a little bit, I think we could see something special. But for Bryce, he's been hearing this since he's been playing high school football. He will never make it in the high school level because he's too small. He was tiny, and then he ended up winning, becoming the number one player in the nation. He ended up winning the MVP in the All-Star game. And then he went to college. You're never going to make it in college. You're too small. These offensive linemen are going to tower you. He failed to win a national championship, but he still won a Heisman. I just think that at some point
you can do it at that size in college, though. Doing it in the NFL, not saying you can't, but that's a different. I would never rule out a guy from, especially doing it at Bama. And I love him. It would scare me to pass him. It would scare me to take him. That's how I would put it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of those situations where if you take a quarterback, you're in the front office of the Houston Texans, and you take a quarterback that's not Bryce Young, and you whiff, and Bryce Young becomes good, that is the end of your job. If you take Bryce Young as the number overall pick, and he gets hurt or he whiffs, you get a redo. That's how it is.
You're also done. You get it wrong.
I don't think you're done. I don't think you are, because if you look at anytime we've had these comparisons where you have really close quarterbacks, but one has a chance to be generational, they will ask you, they will be okay. I don't have nothing against CJ Stroud. I think CJ Stroud's a phenomenal quarterback. He throws too many turnover worthy balls for me to say that he's a surefire number one. And then you look at, and he doesn't perform well under pressure. And I'm not talking about pressure of the game. I'm talking about with pressure in his face. When pressure is in front of his face, he's not that great of a quarterback. Then when you look at Will Levis, he has all of the tools that you want to be a great pro quarterback. But then what has he done? You have so much that you have to work on for Will Levis to be great. Why would you not just take Anthony Richardson at that point later in the draft? I think if Anthony Richardson falls to the 30th, somewhere around there, then yeah, sure, you swing back up and go get him. But I just don't think that if you take a quarterback, you take Bryce Young if you're the number one pick, or you take one of these D linemen.
It's funny you bring that up with the measurables and stuff. I was listening to the radio today on the way picking up kids from daycare, and they had a scout on that was talking about Anthony Richardson. And I don't know if I buy what he's saying, but he said once people see the arm strength and his running ability, he's going to go in the top 5. And then he said he would not be shocked if he went
top 5.
I said they asked me literally I did this draft segment without even knowing what I was talking about. But I did my draft. I try to stay current. I did a breakdown of all top 300 draft eligible players already, just because I just love college football. So they asked me this, and they asked me, where would you draft Anthony Richardson? And I asked them, I was like, are you asking me where would I draft him or where I think he should be drafted? Because I think that Anthony Richardson is going to go like top 15. I don't think Anthony Richardson should be a day one talent, but that's just me. And I'm not getting paid the big bucks, but this guy is going to measure out like an absolute stud, and they're going to fall in love with that because that's what you want. That's what these guys want. They want numbers. They want measurables. They tried and true. They don't want these guys who are undersized, who have an ability to possibly get hurt, who are stone walls in the pocket. Not with this new NFL. No.
I think there's just that. I mean, in the top 10, there's probably going to be 4 or 5 quarterbacks that can go. Like, I know that seems crazy, but there's that many teams that will need a quarterback. And like the Texans project as a quarterback. Seahawks probably take a quarterback.
Yep.
Colts definitely take a quarterback. Lions.
The Lions is the interesting one. I don't know what they do.
Raiders definitely would take a quarterback.
I'm not sure about the Raiders too because McDaniels is under the gun to win next year. They probably should, but they're gonna. Some of these teams are gonna look for free agency. But I get your point. A lot of teams
Panthers, Titans. Do you? I mean, is Willis? Do you pull the plug already on?
Absolutely, God,
absolutely.
So,
he's not starting another game, is he? Will?
And this was another situation where NFL scouts, they go after the flash factor in Willis, but nowhere in college did he prove that he would translate that easily to the NFL, except for his speed and athleticism. But you have to be able to throw the ball. Yeah. It's just clear as day.
No doubt. All right, guys, this was fun. I think we covered it. We got into some draft stuff, some NBA. We'll be back. I don't know, probably Sunday. I don't think we'll do a Saturday show, but if we do, we'll let you know. But Nick, Matt, Brad, appreciate you guys. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This is The Bank is Open, presented by Pick'em Sports. We'll see you guys. Good luck with all your plays.